Elon Musk, known for his bold ventures and eccentric ideas, was always ahead of the curve. From conquering space with SpaceX to revolutionizing electric vehicles with Tesla, his innovations changed the course of history. But despite his towering successes, Elon had always been curious about human nature, especially when it came to how people perceived those less fortunate than himself. He often wondered, in a world that often judged based on wealth and status, how would people treat someone without either? After much thought, Elon devised a plan. He would disguise himself as a homeless man and spend an entire day in an upscale restaurant. The goal wasn't to prove a point about his wealth or status. It was to observe how people treated him based on his appearance alone. He wanted to see how those who lived in luxury viewed those who had nothing. On a crisp December morning, Elon began his transformation. Gone were his tailored suits and meticulously styled hair. In their place was a torn hoodie, a scruffy beard and unkempt hair. He pulled on a pair of worn-out jeans and shoes that looked like they had seen better days. The transformation was both liberating and humbling. The man who once dined with world leaders and tech moguls now resembled someone struggling to survive on the streets. Elon took a deep breath, his heart racing with excitement. This was the first time in his life he would truly experience what it meant to be judged not for what he had achieved, but for the way he appeared. He had no idea what to expect, but he knew it would be an eye-opening experience. Elon's destination was L'Elegance, a Michelin-starred restaurant in the heart of Los Angeles. Known for its extravagant decor and exclusive clientele, L'Elegance was a place where the city's elite gathered to enjoy fine dining and wine. The establishment was a symbol of luxury, and it catered to a crowd that valued prestige over anything else. As Elon entered the restaurant, the atmosphere immediately shifted. The sound of conversation and clinking silverware seemed to quiet down as patrons turned their heads to look at him. Their eyes were filled with confusion, judgment, and discomfort. It was a stark contrast to the grandiosity of the place. His appearance didn't fit the ambience, and the patrons weren't shy about making it known. The maitre d', a sharply dressed man with an air of superiority, approached Elon as he stood awkwardly in the entrance. His brow furrowed in disbelief as he assessed the disheveled figure before him. Elon, remaining in character, smiled politely and asked for a menu. "I'll pay for whatever I order," he said, pulling out a crumpled $20 bill from his pocket. The maitre d' raised an eyebrow and took a step back. "I'm afraid you're in the wrong place, sir," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "We have a dress code here. Perhaps a diner down the street would be more appropriate for you." The patrons of the restaurant continued to stare, some whispering to each other, others muttering loudly enough for Elon to hear. One man seated at the far end of the room sneered, "Why let riffraff like that in here? It ruins the ambience." Elon's heart sank slightly, but he stayed calm. This was exactly the reaction he had expected. In the face of judgment, he kept his eyes on the ground, focusing on the moment. But just as the maitre d' was about to usher him out, something unexpected happened. A young waitress named Clara, who had been quietly observing the situation from behind the bar, stepped forward. With genuine concern in her eyes, Clara approached Elon. She could see the discomfort on his face and knew that something wasn't right. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked gently. Elon looked up, meeting her eyes. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "I'm just hungry," he replied, his voice steady but filled with vulnerability. Clara, who had only recently started working at L'Elegance, had heard about the restaurant's dress code but had never seen it enforced so harshly. She wasn't sure what had prompted her, but something inside her told her this man needed compassion, not judgment. Turning to the maitre d', Clara said, "If he's willing to pay, shouldn't we serve him? Isn't that our policy?" Her voice was firm yet respectful, not backing down in the face of authority. The maitre d' hesitated for a moment, his pride bruised by Clara's challenge. After what felt like an eternity, he finally sighed. "Fine," he muttered, "but keep him out of sight. Put him somewhere in the back, away from the other customers." Clara led Elon to a small table near the kitchen, far from the glitzy main dining area. It was an area typically reserved for employees and off-duty staff, but it was the best she could do under the circumstances. She handed Elon the menu, offering him a quiet smile. "Order whatever you like," she whispered, her eyes filled with kindness. "Don't worry about the others." Elon sat down, feeling the weight of the stares still lingering in the air. He picked up the menu, but he wasn't really looking at it. He was watching the reactions around him. The restaurant was still buzzing with conversations, but there was an unspoken tension in the air. Patrons were still sneaking glances at him, their whispers only growing louder. Some looked at him with disdain, others with confusion. The judgment was palpable, and Elon found himself becoming more and more aware of how easily people could dismiss someone based purely on their appearance. He ordered a simple meal, soup and bread, barely making a dent in the lavish menu around him. But as he ate, Clara returned several times to check on him. Each time she offered him a warm smile and a few kind words, making sure he felt comfortable. At one point she even brought him an extra slice of bread, saying it was on the house. These small gestures of kindness made Elon feel something he hadn't experienced in a long time: humanity. Meanwhile, the other diners continued to cast judgmental glances his way. A few even complained to the staff, clearly bothered by his presence. Despite the cold reception, Elon remained calm, observing everything with a detached sense of curiosity. He was witnessing human behavior at its rawest. And so far it wasn't pretty. As the meal came to an end, Elon reached into his pocket and pulled out his credit card. Claire was surprised. She had assumed, like many others, that the man before her was penniless. But as he handed her the card, she hesitated for a moment, not sure how to proceed. She had expected him to pay with crumpled bills, not a credit card. Nonetheless, she processed the payment, her mind racing. When she returned the card to Elon, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Thank you for your kindness," he said softly, his voice genuine. "Please open this after I leave." Clara was taken aback, unsure what to expect. But she nodded and accepted the envelope with a quiet "Thank you, sir." Elon stood up, adjusting his hoodie. He gave Clara one last smile, a silent thank you, and walked out of the restaurant. As he exited, the maitre d' and several patrons watched him go, still clearly unsettled by the entire situation. They didn't know who he was, nor did they seem to care. Once Elon had left, Clara couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. She tore open the envelope, expecting perhaps a small tip or maybe a note of thanks. Instead, she gasped as she pulled out a check for a staggering $50,000. Her hands shook as she read the accompanying note, written in Elon's unmistakable handwriting. "Your compassion in a world that often lacks it is inspiring. Use this to follow your dreams or help others as you see fit." Clara's eyes widened. She stood frozen in place, the weight of the gesture sinking in. This wasn't just a tip. This was a life-changing amount of money, given not out of obligation, but because she had shown kindness to a stranger in need. Without hesitation, Clara rushed to share the news with her coworkers. As she told them, their reactions ranged from disbelief to awe. Word of the incident spread quickly, and soon the entire restaurant was buzzing. The patrons who had once sneered at Elon now stood in stunned silence, realizing that the man they had mocked was none other than one of the world's most influential figures. The news of the $50,000 check spread like wildfire. Clara's coworkers were in shock, trying to process what had just happened. Some of them had witnessed the interaction between Clara and Elon firsthand, but none of them could have imagined that the man they had so quickly dismissed was actually the billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk. Soon enough, the restaurant was buzzing with energy, and the patrons who had been so judgmental just hours earlier were left in deep contemplation. Their embarrassment was palpable. The conversations that had previously been filled with whispers about the homeless man were now hushed, as everyone realized how wrong they had been. The restaurant manager, who had been just as quick to judge as the patrons, walked up to Clara with an apologetic look on his face. "I didn't know," he said, still processing the situation. "I should have been more understanding." Clara nodded, still trying to wrap her mind around what had just happened. The money was significant, yes, but what had struck her most was the simple act of kindness that had led to such a life-changing reward. She didn't expect anything from Elon. She had just done what she believed was right. But somehow her decision to treat him with respect had changed everything. Word of the incident spread beyond the restaurant walls. It quickly became a viral sensation, picked up by social media platforms, news outlets, and even Elon's own followers. As the story made the rounds, many of the patrons who had once laughed at Elon's appearance began to publicly apologize. They posted messages on social media expressing their regret for how they had treated the homeless man and how their assumptions had been proven wrong in the most unexpected way. Within hours of the incident, the hashtag #BeLikeClara began trending on Twitter, It was a movement that captured the essence of the story: kindness, empathy, and challenging our biases. People shared their own experiences of judgment and the importance of treating others with respect, no matter their appearance or background. Clara's name became a symbol of decency, and she was inundated with messages from people all over the world praising her actions. The patrons who had mocked Elon in the restaurant now found themselves the subject of ridicule. Some tried to justify their actions, claiming they hadn't known it was Elon Musk. But the damage had already been done. The world had seen how easily people could be dehumanized based on appearances, and it wasn't a good look for those who had dismissed him. As the story gained traction, Clara was invited to interviews and she spoke openly about the experience. She explained that she hadn't known who Elon was when she had first approached him, but she knew one thing for sure: he was a human being who deserved kindness just like anyone else. Her words resonated with people, and many saw her as an example of how society should be treating one another, especially in a time where division and prejudice seemed all too prevalent. A day after the incident, Elon Musk took to Twitter to share his thoughts on the entire experience. His tweet read, "Kindness costs nothing but is worth everything. Thank you, Clara, for reminding me of that. The world needs more empathy. #BeLikeClare." The tweet went viral, garnering millions of likes and retweets. Elon's message struck a chord with people all over the globe. It wasn't just about the money. It was about recognizing the humanity in others, regardless of their status or wealth. The act of kindness had come full circle. What had started as an experiment to observe human nature had turned into a powerful lesson about empathy, generosity, and the importance of never judging a book by its cover. In interviews, Elon elaborated on the experience. He spoke about the pressures of being constantly scrutinized and how, for the first time in a long while, he had experienced the vulnerability of being judged by his appearance alone. It had been an eye-opening experience, and he was grateful for the way Clara had treated him with compassion. Elon also used the opportunity to stress the importance of showing kindness to everyone, not just those who can offer something in return. "We can all make a difference," he said. "Sometimes, all it takes is a small act of kindness to change someone's life." For Clara, the experience had been life-changing in more ways than one. The $50,000 check was a significant sum of money, but the real gift was the perspective it gave her. She had always believed in the power of kindness, but now she had witnessed firsthand how one simple action could create ripples that reached far beyond what she could ever have imagined. The money enabled Clara to pursue her dreams, something she had never thought possible before. She enrolled in a culinary school where she had always wanted to study. With Elon's encouragement, Clara was able to focus on her passion and turn her life around. She also made a commitment to give back, supporting causes that helped those in need, just as she had helped Elon that day. As for the patrons of L'Elegance, the lesson they had learned was profound. They had been humbled by their assumptions and realized that no one should be judged based on their appearance. Elon Musk, in his usual unconventional style, had delivered a message that would stay with them forever. The entire incident had shown them that kindness, compassion, and empathy were the true markers of a person's worth, not the clothes they wore or the wealth they possessed. In the end, Elon Musk had succeeded in his experiment beyond his expectations. He had not only tested the limits of human kindness but had sparked a conversation about empathy that would continue to echo far beyond the walls of L'Elegance.